The Thrall research vessel SSV Kalen drifted quietly through the cold emptiness beyond the Viridian expanse. Stars hung like frozen sparks in the black, distant and silent. Inside the ship, the air hummed with calm. Soft lights glowed along smooth corridors. The crew, tall, slender beings with silver blue skin and calm, deep eyes, moved with quiet purpose. They were scholars, not soldiers. Their mission was peace, to study ancient ruins, map forgotten nebulae, and share knowledge with the galaxy. Captain Elira Vaughn stood on the observation deck, her long fingers resting gently on the cool glass. She watched a distant gas giant swirl in slow, colorful storms. For weeks, they had followed strange energy readings from this region. Now, they were close. Just one more scan, and they might uncover something beautiful, perhaps the last message of a lost civilization. But then, the alarms sounded. Not loud, blaring sirens. Thrall ships did not scream in fear. Instead, a soft chime repeated, steady and urgent. Elira turned without panic. On the main screen in the bridge, her second-in-command, Kale, appeared. His face was tight. "Captain," he said, voice low, "we have contact. Unknown origin. Approaching at impossible speed." Elira moved quickly but calmly. On the view screen, space stood. A ripple formed, like water disturbed by a stone. Then it tore open. Ships poured out, not sleek or noble, but jagged, pulsing things of bone and metal, slick with something wet and dark. They moved like a school of predators, silent and hungry. No signals, no hails, just death coming fast. "The Scourge," Kale whispered. Everyone on the bridge froze. Even the ship's AI seemed to hold its breath. The Scourge were not just enemies. They were extinction. A techno-organic swarm that ate planets, melted cities into fuel, and turned living beings into raw material. They had already devoured 3 star systems. No fleet had stopped them. No weapon had slowed them. The Galactic Concord had declared entire regions off limits, hoping the swarm would burn itself out, but it hadn't. And now it was here. "Shields up," Elira ordered. "Send distress on all channels. Priority Alpha." Her crew moved, but their hands shook. Thrall ships carried no weapons, only scanners, shields, and escape pods. They believed violence only bred more violence. But belief offered no armor against teeth made of starship hulls. The first Scourge vessel struck like a hammer. The Kalen groaned. Lights flickered. Gravity wavered for a heartbeat. A section of the outer hull vanished, not exploded, but digested, as if the ship itself had been chewed and swallowed. "They're breaching Deck 7, Kale reported, voice cracking. Life support failing. Containment fields collapsing. Elira didn't flinch. "Evacuate non-essential personnel to the core. Seal all bulkheads." But it was too late. The Scourge didn't just attack ships, they infected them. Black tendrils, thick as trees, punched through walls, dripping acid that hissed and steamed. Crew members screamed, not in rage, but in pure terror as the tendrils grabbed them, wrapped them, and pulled them into the pulsing darkness. On the bridge, alarms now blared in earnest. Red lights flashed. Reports poured in. Engineering gone. Medbay overrun. Communications damaged. Elira stood alone at the main console. Kale was gone, dragged through a hole in the floor, still shouting orders until his voice cut off. She typed with steady fingers. The distress signal was already broadcasting, but on normal channels, it would reach only empty space. The nearest Concord fleet was weeks away. By then, the Kalen would be dust, and the Scourge would be hunting new prey. Then she remembered the old story. A myth, really? Something told in hushed tones at diplomatic gatherings. A frequency hidden deep in the emergency band. Not for Concord help, not for peacekeepers, but for the one species the galaxy feared more than war itself. The Deathworlders. Humans. From Solthria, a planet so violent, so full of poison, predators, and natural disasters that no sane alien would land there without a full biohazard suit. Yet humans lived there. Not just lived, thrived. They fought their own storms, their own beasts, their own kind, and still looked to the stars with fire in their eyes. Rumor said they answered any SOS. No questions. No price. If you called, they came. And when they came, they brought hell with them. Most thought it was a fairy tale, a warning to children. Don't be so bad that even the Deathworlders come for you. But Alira had no fairy tales left. With trembling but determined hands, she entered the Forbidden's code. The one marked, "Do not use Galactic security risk." She opened the Deathworlder emergency channel, a signal so old. It used analog pulses from Earth's 20th century, layered with quantum bursts only human tech could decode. She recorded her message. "This is Captain Alara Vaughn of the SSV Kalen Thrall Collective. We are under attack by the Scourge Swarm at coordinates Theta 9, Viridian Edge. Our defenses are failing. All lives aboard are in immediate danger. If anyone hears this, especially you, Deathworlders, please, help us. They are consuming everything." Her voice broke, just once. Then she straightened. May the stars bear witness. We did not go quietly. She hit send. The signal shot out, tiny, fragile, but sharp as a knife cutting through the void on a frequency no one else used. It carried not just coordinates, but desperation, hope, and a plea from a gentle species that had never asked for violence. Until now. Behind her, the bridge door exploded inward, not with fire, but with wet, tearing sound. A massive scourge limb, covered in eyes and dripping black fluid, slithered through the gap. The air filled with the stench of rust and rotting meat. Alira didn't run. She stood tall. She placed one hand over her heart, the thrall gesture of final peace, and turned to face the horror. As the thing loomed over her, she whispered, so softly only the ship's dying logs might hear, "Forgive us. We've awakened the monsters." The limb struck. The lights died, but the SOS kept flying, out past dead stars and silent ruins, past sleeping fleets and blind sentinels. It traveled. A single cry in the dark, and somewhere in a quiet corner of the galaxy, a human listening post staffed by a bored technician drinking bad coffee suddenly sat up straight. His screen blinked red, a signal. On the old channel, the one they'd been told never to ignore. He read the message, saw the coordinates, heard the fear in the alien voice. Then he picked up the comms. "Command, this is Outpost Theta. We just got a call from the edge. Scourge confirmed. Civilians down. Sending full data burst." A pause. Static. Then, from far away, a voice grunted back. "Copy that. Patch it to Earth. And tell the fleet it's time to wake up." The technician leaned back, staring at the stars outside his tiny window. He smiled. "Poor bastards," he muttered. "You really shouldn't have made them cry." The signal reached Earth in less than 3 minutes. Not because it was fast, but because humans had listening posts everywhere, even in places they weren't supposed to be. Deep in the asteroid belt, on the dark side of Mars, hidden inside comet tails, they watched, always dotted Unified Earth Defense Command. Buried under kilometers of rock and steel beneath the Himalayas, the alert came not with sirens, but with a single red light on a dusty console no one had touched in years. It blinked once, then again, steady, insistent. An old technician named Ruiz, who'd served since the Mars Rebellion and still wore his dog tags on a chain, leaned forward. He squinted at the screen. His coffee sat cold beside him. He read the message, saw the alien voice, felt the fear in every broken word. He didn't call his boss. He didn't fill out a form. He hit one button, the big red one under a cracked glass cover labeled "Not a Drill." Across the Sol system, things changed. On Luna Base Gamma, Marine squads snapped awake from sleep pods. Armor clanked as they ran, not shouting, just moving. On Mars, the orbital shipyards lit up like cities at dawn. In the rings of Saturn, silent destroyers powered on, engines humming to life after years of cold storage. Near Jupiter, the heavy carrier Anzan Maw turned its bow toward deep space, its captain already suited up. Admiral Valka Rostova stood on the command deck of the Iron Maw, arms crossed, eyes sharp. She was tall, scarred, with a shaved head and tattoos that told stories no one dared ask about. She'd fought in 12 wars, survived 3 planetary collapses, and once walked out of a black hole. Simulation with nothing but a flask and a grin. She listened to the Thrall captain's message one time. Then she turned to her crew. "Sound the horn," she said, not a siren, not an alarm, a horn. Deep, ancient, echoing through every human ship in the system, a sound copied from old Earth warships, meant to wake the dead. And it did. The Deathworlder fleet began to move. It wasn't neat. It wasn't pretty. Human ships were mismatched, some gleaming with new armor, others patched with scrap metal and painted with crude symbols. Skulls, playing cards, snarling wolves. One ship had a giant cartoon shark painted on its side. Another flew a tattered flag that read "Nope" in glowing letters, yet they formed lines. Tight, brutal, ready. Alien diplomats aboard the Iron Maw watched from the observation deck, pale and silent. 2 of them, Thrall survivors rescued from earlier Scourge attacks, clutched each other. They had begged the Concorde for help. They had been told to wait for analysis. Now, they saw humans preparing for war like it was breakfast. One diplomat, a small green-skinned being from the Kel Concorde, turned to a human officer. "You going?" Just because they asked. He whispered. The officer, a young woman with grease on her cheek and a rifle slung over her shoulder, smiled. "Yeah, that's how it works. But you don't even know them." "Doesn't matter," the woman said, checking her ammo. Someone screamed in the dark. "We answer, always." In the command center, Valka studied the battle plans. Her AI, named Granny, spoke in a calm, grandmotherly voice. "Admiral, the Scourge swarm is estimated at 2,000 ships. Their bioshields absorb 98% of standard plasma fire. They regenerate. They adapt." Valka nodded. "Good. Means they'll feel it when we hit. Human losses projected at 60 to 85%. Granny added softly. "Then we'll make sure the other 15% make it hurt." Valka said. She opened the fleet-wide channel. Her voice crackled across every ship, every soldier, every pilot. "Listen up, you ugly, beautiful bastards. Out there, something is eating worlds. It thinks it's strong because nothing's ever said no to it. Well, guess what? Earth says no. Mars says no. And every damn rock we've bled on says no." She paused. Somewhere, a Marine lit a cigarette. A pilot adjusted her goggles. A medic double-checked her trauma kit. "We're not going out there to win," Valka continued. "We're going to remind the universe what happens when you hurt someone who can't fight back. We're Deathworlders. We were born in fire, raised by storms, and taught to bite harder than we got bit." She slammed her fist on the console. "Let's go teach the bullies a lesson." The fleet jumped on, not one by one. All at once. Hundreds of ships tore holes in space-time, vanishing in flashes of light. The energy wave alone made Jupiter's storms shiver. Back on Earth, people looked up. Not in fear, but in pride. Kids pressed their faces to windows. Old veterans stood straighter. Farmers paused in their fields. Everyone knew what that flash meant. The humans had been called, and they had gone. Inside the lead shuttle, a group of Marines sat in silence, checking gear. One of them, a kid named Jocks, barely 20, tapped his helmet. "Hey," he said quietly. "You think the aliens know what's coming?" A grizzled sergeant beside him chuckled. "Nah, nobody ever does. They think we're monsters," Jocks said. The sergeant looked at him. "Maybe we are, but we're their monsters now." Far ahead, at the edge of known space, the Scourge still fed. They tore apart the last Thrall ship, melted its bones into fuel, and turned its crew into screaming biomass. They did not know fear. They had never lost, but now, in the void behind them, space began to ripple again, not with their own arrival. With something worse, something angry. Something human. On the iron maw. Valka stood at the front viewport. Her hands rested on the railing. Her eyes were hard. "Let's see how tough you are," she whispered, "when the Death World bites back." The fleet dropped out of warp just beyond the ruined Thrall colonies. Before them, the Scourge swarmed like flies on rotting meat black, pulsing. Endless. Human ships didn't slow down. They charged. Engines screamed. Guns powered up. Pilots howled old Earth War cries into their cums. One ship played heavy metal, music over open frequency so loud it distorted space. The first shots fired weren't plasma or lasers. They were old-fashioned. Kinetic slugs, tungsten rods flung at near-light speed, screaming through the dark like angry ghosts. They punched through Scourge hulls like paper. No fancy tech. Just raw, stupid force. The Scourge turned, confused. They had never been hit like this. Then came the missiles. Not smart ones. The kind humans called trash cans with teeth. Homemade, overloaded, packed with everything from napalm to radioactive waste. One even carried a recording of a baby crying, just to mess with their sensors. The alien diplomats on the Iron Maw watched in stunned silence as human ships did the impossible. A cargo hauler, retrofitted with mining lasers, carved a path through 3 Scourge destroyers by superheating their own coolant and spraying it like dragon's breath. A small scout ship flew straight into a Scourge command node, exploded, and took out half a wing of the swarm. And the humans? They laughed. Not nervously. Not in madness. In joy. In fury. In the pure wild joy of protecting someone who couldn't protect themselves. A Marine on comm shouted, "Eat vacuum, you overgrown mold." Another sang a lullaby as she fired her railgun. Back on Earth, the signal had changed. The SOS was now answered. But the Deathworlders weren't just coming. They had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Scourge had never lost. Not once. Not to the Thrall shields, not to the Concord's lasers, not even to the ancient defense drones left by dead civilizations. They simply ate, grew, and moved on. But now, something was different. The humans didn't fight like the others. They didn't line up in neat formations. They didn't send polite warnings. They didn't retreat when outnumbered. They charged, laughing, shouting, sometimes singing straight into the heart of the swarm. As if death was just another Tuesday, the first wave of human ships tore through the outer Scourge lines like a storm through dry leaves. Kinetic rounds punched holes in biohulls. Missiles bloomed in silent fireballs. One old freighter, the UN's Rust Bucket, dumped its entire cargo of frozen ammonia into space. Then fired a laser into it, creating a cloud of super-cold shrapnel that froze, Scourge limbs solid before they could react. On the bridge of the Iron Maw, Admiral Valka watched the battle unfold with calm eyes. Her fleet was small compared to the swarm, maybe 1/10 the size, but they hit like a hammer. "Status on the Thrall survivors?" she asked. 2 escape pods recovered. Granny, the ship's eye, replied in her soft voice. Both injured, but alive. They keep asking if we're here to harvest them. Valka snorted. Tell them we only harvest enemy ears. And coffee beans. Down in the medbay, human medics worked fast. One young medic, Private Lin, stitched up a Thrall's torn arm while humming a tune. The alien flinched at every move. You're not going to dissect me? The Thrall whispered. Lin blinked. Why would I do that? You're hurt. I fix hurt. But your species, you are known for violence. For chaos. Lin tied off the stitch and offered a protein bar. Yeah, we're violent when someone's getting hurt. Chaos? Nah, we call it making things right. Outside, the battle grew louder. The Scourge, for the first time, hesitated. Their hive mind sent pulses of confusion. These enemy ships didn't follow logic. They used tools meant for mining, farming, even waste disposal as weapons. One human pilot had lassoed a Scourge drone with a magnetic tether, spun it around like a slingshot, and smashed it into 3 others. Worse, the humans didn't fear pain. A Marine named Ruiz, no relation to the technician on Earth, led a boarding team onto a captured Scourge ship. His suit was half melted, his left arm bleeding, but he kept moving. He planted charges on the core, then stayed behind to hold off a tide of biotendrils with nothing but a plasma torch and a knife. Tell my mom I died clean, he said over comms before the ship blew, back on the Iron Law. The Thrall diplomats watched the feeds in horror and awe. One turned to Valka. You sacrifice your people. For strangers? Valka didn't look at her. We don't see strangers. We see people who need help. But you're losing ships. Your tactics are reckless. Reckless? Valka finally turned. Her eyes were tired but fierce. You spent your whole history avoiding war. We spent ours surviving it. On Earth, if a storm comes, you don't hide. You build a wall. If a beast attacks, you don't run, you fight. And if someone's screaming in the dark, you go find them. She pointed to the screen, where a human gunship was weaving through Scourge fire, dropping tiny drones that burrowed into enemy hulls and exploded from the inside. That's not recklessness. That's care. The kind that says, I'll burn myself to keep you safe. The Scourge began to fall back, not in full retreat, just a shift, a ripple of doubt. Their ships clustered tighter, defensive. They'd never faced an enemy that didn't care about odds. That turned wounds into weapons that used fire, ice, sound, and even music to break their systems. Then came the bio-warriors, clad in black armor grown from Earth extremophiles bacteria that could survive acid, radiation, and vacuum. They dropped onto Scourge hulls like spiders. Their suits hissed with oxygen and recycled blood. Their eyes glowed red behind visors. They didn't just fight. They infected. The humans had studied the Scourge. They knew it was part organic. So they weaponized Earth's deadliest microbes, viruses. They ate metal, fungi that grew in 0G, spores that choked synthetic lungs. They didn't just kill the Scourge. They made it sick. One bio-warrior, Cody named Mama Bear, planted a canister on a Scourge command ship. Inside was a mix of mold from Chernobyl, bacteria from deep earth vents, and a pinch of soil from a graveyard in Texas. For luck, she'd said. Within minutes, the Scourge ship began to rot from the inside. Its black skin turned green, then gray, then crumbled like old paper. The hive mind screamed, not in pain, but in fear. Fear was new. On the Iron Maw, Granny's voice broke the tension. Admiral, I'm detecting a change in Scourge behavior. They're no longer attacking. They're scanning us, analyzing. Valka frowned. They're trying to understand us. Correct. And they're failing. A human tech nearby laughed. Good. Let them wonder why we fight like we've got nothing to lose. Because we do, another muttered. We've already lost everything. Earth's half dead. Mars is a junkyard. But we're still here. Still standing. The Thrall survivor in medbay stared at the screen as a human fighter, wings torn off, rammed itself into a scourge carrier. The explosion lit up the void like a second sun. He didn't eject, the alien whispered. No, Lynn said softly. He didn't need to. His job was done. For the first time, the Thrall felt something other than terror. They felt hope and shame. They had built a galaxy of peace, but it crumbled at the first sign of teeth. Humans lived on a world that tried to kill them every day and still reached out a hand to strangers. The battle slowed. The Scourge pulled back, forming a tight ball around their core ships. Human forces didn't chase. They held the line, patching hulls, dragging wounded home, sharing rations with alien survivors. Valka stood alone on the observation deck. She watched the stars. Somewhere out there, the real threat waited, the World Eater core, the brain of the swarm. And she knew humans would have to go there, but not yet. Tonight, they had saved lives. And that was enough. In the quiet that followed, a single human ship drifted near a broken Thrall pod. A Marine floated out in a battered suit. He didn't carry a weapon, just a medkit and a canteen. He tapped on the pod's window. Inside, a young Thrall child, eyes wide. The Marine smiled behind his visor. He held up a small earth toy, a wind-up dog that barked when squeezed. He pressed it against the glass. Woof. Woof. The child blinked. Then slowly smiled back. No words. No treaties. Just kindness in the dark. And far away, in the silent depths, the Scourge hive mind pulsed with a new thought. What are these creatures? Why do they not break? Why do they care? It had no answer, but it knew for the first time that it might lose, and losing was something the Scourge had never planned for. The human fleet floated in the silent graveyard of dead Thrall worlds. Broken satellites drifted like bones. Burn-out cities glowed faintly in the dark. The Scourge had pulled back, but not gone. They were hiding, waiting. And now, the humans knew where they were going. The neutron star cluster known as the Eye of Morning. At its center, buried inside a spinning star so dense that time itself bent, was the World Eater core, the mind that controlled the entire swarm. Admiral Valka stood in the war room, maps glowing around her. Her face was tired, but her eyes burned. Scouts had confirmed it. The core was building something. A weapon. Something that could crack open young stars and drink their energy. If it fired, an entire galactic nursery, home to billions of future worlds, would die before it was born. We can't let it happen, she said. A Thrall scientist named Kira, one of the few survivors, stepped forward. Her hand shook. The core is inside a neutron star fortress. Gravity so strong, light can't escape. Shields made of collapsed matter. No ship can get close. Valka didn't flinch. Then we'll go closer. But it's suicide. Maybe, Valka said. But if we do nothing, it's genocide. So we choose fast death over slow horror. She turned to her engineers. What have you got? An old man with grease-stained overalls and 3 cybernetic fingers grinned. We've been cooking something special. Call it the Kessler Cascade Bomb. He explained. It wasn't a nuke. Not exactly. It was a device that, when detonated near a debris field, would turn every speck of dust, every broken ship, every rock into high-speed shrapnel. It would create a storm of death moving at near light speed. Once started, it couldn't be stopped. It would shred anything in its path, including the neutron star's outer shell. The Thrall went pale. That could tear the whole sector apart. Stars could go dark. Planets could be flung into the void. Valka nodded. or we let the core eat the future. Your choice. Silence filled the room. Then Granny's voice came over the speakers. Admiral, the Galactic Concord is hailing. They're begging us not to use the bomb. They say it violates 12 peace accords. Valka walked to the comm screen. On it, a dozen alien leaders pleaded, some angry, some scared, all desperate. She leaned in. You let the Scourge burn 3 systems. You told the Thrall to wait. You did nothing while children were eaten alive. Now you care about rules? She paused. Her voice dropped low, cold as space. You don't get a vote. This is human business now. She cut the feed. Later, in the hangar bay, Marines loaded the bomb onto the UN's last gasp, the smallest, fastest ship they had. Its pilot, a quiet woman named Jess, checked her flight suit. She'd flown through asteroid storms, plasma flares, and once landed on a comet using only thrusters and prayer. You ready? Valka asked. Walking up. Jess nodded. Just promise me one thing. Name it. When I blow it, play my grandma's favorite song over the fleet channel. Sweet Caroline. Valka smiled. Deal. The plan was simple. Jess would fly the bomb into the debris ring around the neutron star. Detonate it. The cascade would do the rest. But to get there, she'd have to pass through Scourge lines, survive gravity tides, and outrun the core's defenses. No one expected her to come back. The fleet formed up not to attack but to shield her. Every human ship, even the broken ones, turned their bows toward the eye of morning. They would draw fire. They would die, if needed, so Jess could reach her mark. The Thrall watched from the iron maw. Kira whispered, "You're throwing away your lives." For a chance? A human sergeant beside her shrugged. We don't do chances. We do what's right. The jump was brutal. Space twisted as the fleet warped into the neutron star's grip. Time slowed. Light bent. Ships groaned under pressure. One cracked in half before they even saw the enemy. Then the Scourge came. Not ship's monsters. Living war beasts grown from dead worlds, with eyes like dying suns and mouths that screamed in radio waves. They swarmed the human lines, tearing holes with claws made of melted cities. The humans fought back with everything. A cargo ship dumped its load of scrap metal into the path of a beast, and then blew it apart with a railgun, turning junk into bullets. A medical frigate, unarmed, flew straight into a Scourge command drone, overloaded its reactor, and turned itself into a bomb. The pilot's last words, "Tell my dog I said woof." Jess flew through the chaos, hugging the debris field. Alarms blared in her cockpit. Her shields flickered. A Scourge tendril grazed her wing. She didn't flinch. She just played Sweet Caroline softly in her helmet. Coming through. She muttered on the iron maw. Valka watched Jess's signal get closer to the target. Her heart pounded, but her face stayed still. Then dashed disaster. A Scourge hunter, faster than the rest, locked onto Jess. It fired a beam of black energy. Her ship spun, engines dying. She's hit. Someone shouted. Jess coughed blood. Her controls sparked. But she was close. So close. With her last strength, she armed the bomb, set the timer, and pushed the eject button not for herself, but for the payload. The bomb shot forward, tumbling toward the debris ring. The Scourge hunter turned to finish her. But then, from nowhere, a tiny shuttle barely bigger than a lifeboat slammed into the hunter's eye. It was piloted by Jox, the young Marine from Earth. He'd snuck aboard a scout ship, stolen a shuttle, and flown straight into hell. "Eat this, ugly," he yelled over open comms. The explosion blinded sensors for 10 seconds. In that time, the bomb hit the debris ring. It detonated. Not with fire. With silence. Then dash motion. Trillions of pieces of rock, metal, ice, everything that had ever died in that system woke up. They shot outward at impossible speed, guided by the bomb's field. The Kessler Cascade had begun. The storm hit the neutron star's outer shell like a god's hammer. Cracks spread. Light bled out. The Scourge Fortress groaned dawn inside. The World Eater core panicked. For the first time, it felt true fear. It sent a pulse, not of attack, but of plea. A signal, raw and simple. Stop. We surrender. We will leave. We will change. The message reached the Iron Maw. Valka read it. Her crew held their breath. Then she spoke into the comms, voice calm. You ate children. You turned mothers into machines. You didn't ask before you killed. So we won't ask before we end you. She turned to Jess's last known signal now fading. Granny, play the song. A second later, across every human ship, in every helmet, in the cold dark of space, Sweet Caroline began to play soft, sweet, and sad. The cascade reached the core. The neutron star shattered, not exploded. Unmade. Light tore through the void. The Scourge screamed as one, and then fell silent. Their ships went dark. Their limbs stopped moving. Without the core, they were just dead meat in space. Jess's signal vanished. Jox's shuttle was gone. Dozens of human ships were dust. But the nursery stars still burned safe on the Iron Maw. Valka stood alone on the deck. Tears ran down her face, but she didn't wipe them away. She looked at the Thrall survivors. We don't like being called monsters, she said quietly. But sometimes the universe needs monsters to guard the light. No one answered. They didn't need to. The star shone a little brighter that night. The silence after the battle was deeper than space itself. No engines. No screams. Just the soft hum of human ships patching their wounds, and the slow drift of Scourge wreckage burning in the distant light of newborn stars. The World Eater core was gone. The swarm was dead. The galaxy was safe, but the cost hung heavy in the air. On the Iron Maw, medics moved quietly through the halls, carrying bodies wrapped in black cloth. Names were read over the comms. Jess, Jax, Ruiz, Mama Bear. Over 200 souls who wouldn't see Earth again. Yet no one cried loudly. Humans didn't mourn with wails. They mourned by working harder, by checking one more wire, by making sure the next shift had hot coffee. The Thrall survivors stood near the observation deck, watching the cleanup. They had seen horror, but now they saw something stranger. Grief with purpose. A Marine with a broken arm helped weld a hull plate. A pilot with burns on her face shared her last chocolate bar with an alien child. There was no victory dance, only quiet duty. Captain Alira Vaughn was gone, but her message had lived. And because of it, others had come. A week passed. The human fleet began to gather its broken pieces. Ships that could fly headed home. Those that couldn't were stripped for parts, then given proper send-offs, pushed into the nearest star with a salute and a story. The Galactic Concorde finally arrived too late, as always. Their sleek silver vessels hovered at the edge of the battle zone, sending messages of thanks, of awe, of regret. They offered honors, medals, a seat on their high council. Admiral Valka listened to their offer on the comm screen. Her face was clean now, her uniform patched but neat. She looked tired, but not broken. Tell your leaders, she said. We don't want your council. We don't want your medals. Just remember this. If someone screams in the dark, answer. She cut the feed. Later, in the mess hall, she sat with Kira, the Thrall scientist who had once called human tactics reckless. Now, Kira held a cup of real Earth coffee, sipping slowly. You could have ruled the galaxy after this, Kira said softly. Everyone fears you now. Valka laughed a rough, warm sound. We don't want to be feared. We want to be the reason someone sleeps safe at night. Kira looked down. We thought peace meant no fighting. But maybe. Peace means someone strong is willing to fight for it. Now you're getting it, Valka said, patting her shoulder. Back on Earth, news of the battle spread fast. Not through official channels, but through songs, through street murals, through kids playing Scourge Slayer in the dust. In Rio, a statue was raised not of a general, but of a medic holding a child's hand. In Shanghai, a school was named after Jess. In Nairobi, a stray dog adopted by Jax's family was declared honorary fleet mascot. Humans didn't build monuments to war. They built them to care. The Throw, Change Forever, began rewriting their history books. No longer would they say, violence solves nothing. Now they wrote, sometimes kindness must wear armor. Months later, the last human ship limped into Sol System. The Iron Maw was battered, half its hull replaced with scavenged metal, but it flew straight and proud. Crowds gathered on orbital platforms, waving flags made of old ship fabric. Children held signs that read, "Welcome home, monsters." Valka stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow larger, blue, green, and stubbornly alive. Granny spoke one last time. "Admiral, you've been offered a parade. A monument. A lifetime supply of real bacon." Valka smiled. "Tell them I'll take the bacon. Skip the rest." She turned to her crew. "Go home. Hug your people. Fix your houses. Plant a damn tree." As the crew dispersed, a junior officer lingered. "What now, Admiral?" Valka looked out at the stars. "Now, we wait. And listen. Because out there, in the endless dark, someone might still be screaming, and Deathworlders always answer. On a small farming moon near Titan, a boy named Eli played in the red dirt with his friends. They wore helmets made of buckets and wielded sticks as rifles. One yelled, "I'm Admiral Valka." Another shouted, "I'm Jess, the pilot." Eli, the smallest, stood tall. "I'm the one who sent the SOS, he said. His friends paused. Then they all nodded, because even kids knew. Asking for help wasn't weak. It was brave. And being brave meant someone might come. Far away, in a quiet listening post near Pluto, a new technician poured himself coffee. The outpost was old, cold, and mostly empty. But the console? Always on. He checked the channels, normal ones quiet, as usual. Then he glanced at the old analog panel. The one with the cracked glass dot. It was dark. He sighed, took a sip, and almost missed it. A faint blink, red, then another. He froze, pulled up the signal. Not Scourge. Not Concord. Something else. Fainter, weaker, but clear. A voice, trembling but firm. "This is Freighter Star Dancer. We're under attack near Sector 12. Engines gone. Life support failing. Please. If anyone hears this." The technician didn't hesitate. He hit the red button. Down in Sol System, alarms did not sound. But deep in hidden docks, engines began to hum. Lights flickered on inside sleeping warships. A Marine strapped on her boots. A pilot cracked her knuckles. A medic checked her kit dot, and on the bridge of a newly repaired ship once called the Rust Bucket, now renamed Hope's Hammer, a young captain smiled. "All right, team," she said. "Let's go make someone's day better." The Deathworlders were needed again, and they were already on their way.